All right, everybody. I am back again with another video that I am very excited about. This video is entitled "A Study into Gangstalking 5." Some good reading as the subtitle. Just a fair warning to anyone expecting a lot of media in this video. This is mostly, if not all, reading, but the reading is very, it's very impactful. It's probably going to be the most information out of all the presentations I've made. This video right here, if this doesn't help someone, I don't know what will. I'm excited to even share this, and I'm just going to dive right in. Found some good things online. Just been searching, trying to find some interesting things to research, to read, to look at, and I came across something because I don't know how I thought about searching this, but I was just experiencing things, and I just typed in what I was experiencing, and I found this archive of a website from a long time ago. However, the information on it was very pertinent, very necessary. Um, yeah, I can't even say so much about it. It's just so much to say about it. And I'm going to read it verbally, word for word. I'm gonna skip some passages. Some slides are going to be a continuation of paragraph, etc., etc. So if you're into this and you're willing to read this with me, I just pay attention to because I don't have a way to, I don't know how to show the mouse pointer as I read. So if you want to pause it and read everything, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to read every single paragraph. A lot of it's not that important about this topic. Some of it is very important, and you just have to read it, and your mind's gonna be blown if you've been living through this, for any amount of time, and you haven't came to any answers. This is not going to answer it. You know what I'm saying? This is not going to tell you who, etc., etc. This is going to um, unravel, a lot of things for you, a lot of the mystery of it. This is going to take it away, and I'm excited. I read through it, and I'm going to read through it again. And God is good, man. The universe, whoever looks out for us up there, is very good. I was searching for some type of information, not to share, but just because I needed some more information. Um, and this literally just fell in my lap. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into it, okay? All right, so I'm going to read this whole passage. I recommend full screen for this one. And I'm going to continue where I left off on the next slide. As I said, I didn't get the whole passage in, this frame. Some of it's cut off, and I'm going to continue on the next slide. Okay, starting at the top. Privacy forbidden. New surveillance capabilities. Life was a lot simpler 40 years ago at the peak of the Cold War. In 1963, the East German Security Service, the notorious Stasi, used 500,000 informants to monitor and intimidate the population. The Stasi needed a staff of 10,000 agents just to eavesdrop on telephone calls throughout East Germany. That was then. This is now. Today, an entire population can be automatically monitored. The trick is to use computers running automatic word recognition software. Every telephone conversation is scanned for suspicious words. If any are found, the conversation is stored on disk for a human agent to review at a later time. Today's computers also feature voice recognition software. The security service can tell who is making the call, even if it's from a public payphone. Even more unsettling is the newest generation of mapping software. It creates a graphic display, a city map showing locations of who called who. It makes police roundups a lot easier. Alas, the more things change, the more they stay the same. 40 years ago, the East German Security Service rounded up dissidents during a so-called reticage, a rat hunt. Today, the FBI calls it no-knock entry. All this computer hardware and software may seem impressive, but in the USA, the National Security Agency continues to push the envelope with self-learning neural network software that uses human-like artificial intelligence. All this technology gives the government tremendous power over us. I'm going to stop right there because I want you to know this article, everything I'm about to read was written in 1998. It's 2018. This is 20 years ago. And they were already working on neural network software that uses human-like artificial intelligence. So just, add 20 years of research and application to that, and just think about the capabilities now, the way that they can illegally invade your privacy now in 2018. Okay, so I'm going to continue reading. Looking for trouble. Today's surveillance apparatus is routinely used by both the government security service and the police. They go on fishing expeditions, looking for trouble that doesn't exist yet, or creating trouble where none exists. The security service uses surveillance to track dissidents, journalists, human rights activists, student leaders, political opponents, and union leaders. This is illegal, of course. The police use surveillance for preemptive policing. They track certain classes of people. This surveillance, identification, and networking results in mass routine surveillance of large segments of the population without the need for warrants and formal investigations. This, too, is illegal, of course. Huge amount of low-grade intelligence are created. It is used by the government to monitor certain social classes of people and certain races of people living in so-called red line areas. If that ain't a description of what we're going through, just this first this first section, immediately. That's why I was so excited to read this, because, it describes what we're going through. Everybody who's claiming that they are targeted individual, this is what we're going through. We don't know exactly what organization or what section of the government initiated this protocol, but we know what we're going through. And to see it written 20 years ago is amazing to me. So I'm gonna go ahead to the next slide. So I'm gonna just pick up where I left off, and I'm gonna start from the top. Before any crime is committed. Hey, in the eyes of the government, you're automatically presumed to be guilty and deserving of surveillance. The curse of data surveillance. When computers are employed to tie together unrelated databases for use by the security service or police, it is called data surveillance. In the USA, 700 databases can be monitored simultaneously. A surveillance team has instant access to your driver's license, your marital status, your last credit card purchase, the mortgage on your house, your health records, your employment history, your tax return, political contributions, and a potpourri of other personal information. Combine this information with a network of closed-circuit television cameras, and you've got an impressive apparatus for population control. So-called traffic control cameras can recognize vehicle license plates and track your movement around the city. Cameras in shopping malls, retail stores, fast food outlets, parking lots, and other public places can track you on foot. When this network of surveillance devices is tied together by computer networks, it results in preemptive policing. The system targets certain classes of people rather than specific types of criminal activity. Much of the surveillance apparatus is automatic. It runs on artificial intelligence. Now I'm going to pause it there and remind you that this was written in 1998, exactly 20 years ago. So they were already running a system like this with an artificial intelligence, creating records of people, monitoring people globally, and singling out certain types of people. This didn't even say it was looking for criminal behavior. It was profiling people based on race, economic status, area that you live in, etc., to determine the type of surveillance you'll be placed under. In 1998. And I was a child, so just think of how much things have changed, and the the level of technology we have now. It's scary and it's evil. So we're going to continue to go on. Now it starts to get scary. Here's why. This massive apparatus of surveillance and repression can easily be reinforced and retargeted if the political environment changes. Even in this world's so-called democracies, all it takes is a word from the nation's leader to declare a national emergency and implement special measures. This is polite talk for setting up a dictatorship, folks. Just stop for a minute and imagine living under a dictator equipped with such enormous capabilities of surveillance, repression, and control over the general population. Hitler and Stalin were a couple of malacotos compared to what's coming next. What we're talking about here are huge police databases and widespread abuse of civil liberties. Systems like this are usually first forced on groups with little political power like welfare recipients, the unemployed, and minorities. If they complain about invasion of privacy, no one listens. Then, as the oppression begins to be accepted, the data surveillance system is expanded up to socio-economic systems. The potential for abuse is so great that legislators in Denmark have banned CCTV systems. So, you know, we don't know why we're targeted, but we know things like this exist. We didn't have to read this article to know how they abuse technology, how they abuse surveillance, how they abuse their authority, how they illegally profile people, illegally follow people, illegally monitor people. We didn't have to read this article to know that, but this article, it was written in 1998, and it hits home, especially for us going through what we're going through. So I'm just excited to see that in front of my face, and to read it so specifically. So, it described it. It described it perfectly. So we're going to continue. This is even the half of the information I have. That's just that. That was just like an introduction. So we're going to continue. All right. So we're just going to keep it moving. How surveillance works. I'm at the top of the page. Most people don't realize that a security service will use surveillance in 4 different ways for 4 different purposes. These are observation, infiltration, sabotage, and intimidation. All of these threats can be lethal to you and your organization. So I'm gonna stop right there and tell you that a lot of this information is written assuming that the person reading it is involved in like some organization. Like there's it's assuming that this person it knows why they're being under surveillance. So some of the wording may not apply to us directly. Like we're not a part of any organization, anything like that. But the meat of the matter, the actual information applies. Trust me. Just that first paragraph: observation, infiltration, sabotage, and intimidation. If you watch those last few presentations, you've seen all of that. If you've been actually being a targeted individual, you've experienced all of those. So we're going to continue reading from the second paragraph down. Surveillance threat number 1, observation. A security service uses surveillance to watch you. They found out what you're doing. They discover who your contacts, members, operatives, associates, and friends are. They learn your plans. They use your conversation as evidence when they arrest you on charges of conspiracy. Most people don't realize that conspiracy is the most common grounds for arrest when surveillance is involved. Yes, just talking about some topics can get you arrested. What about free speech? Not when the adult police are around. Surveillance threat number 2, infiltration. A security service uses surveillance to learn enough about you so they can infiltrate agents into your group. Infiltration is dangerous for 2 reasons. First, an infiltrated agent can act as an informant, alerting the security service to your plans and providing evidence that can be used later for arrest, coercion, or blackmail. Second, an infiltrated agent can act as an agent provocateur, This is someone who pretends to be enthusiastically support your cause when in reality encouraging you to commit illegal or reckless acts that become grounds for arrest by the security service. Many groups have been tricked into illegal behavior that they otherwise would have never considered. Do not underestimate the damage that an agent provocateur can do. It is a wicked game. That's why the FBI plays it. Also, a lot of this is directed, assuming that the FBI is the one initiating these operations against you. Personally, I have no idea. A lot, and this is 20 years ago, so I imagine pretty much all of these quote unquote authoritative organization uses this similar protocol, because so it could really be anybody. But uh, this particular person writing this experience, has dealt with the FBI. So a lot of this is about what the FBI is doing and a lot of their protocols. So we're going to continue on with the next slide. Surveillance threat number 3, sabotage. A security service uses surveillance to learn everything about you, your group, its goals, and its plans. They can use this information to secretly sabotage your operations. Things just seem to go wrong at the worst moment, yet you can never really pin down what the problem is. An effective security service has a range of sabotage capabilities, ranging from dirty tricks to death squads. Some American citizens are beginning to speculate that the FBI may operate death squads. They claim it is easy for an organization that operates in secret to arrange situations where murder can be camouflaged as misadventure, accidents, illness, criminal activities, chance events, or suicide. How better to disable a persistent grassroots movement than by arranging the demise of its leader via a traffic accident, mugging, or suicide? Wow. That's all I'm going to say. Surveillance threat number 4, intimidation. A security service can use surveillance to control you. It's a form of mind control. The FBI is currently enjoying success with this tactic against a number of militia and patriot groups. That's because fear is a powerful tool. If you know you're under surveillance, you're afraid to do anything. The FBI has developed this mind game to a sophisticated level. After they let you see their surveillance team, they merely need to make an appearance once a month or so. You're so terrified that you assume you're under surveillance 24 hours a day. The FBI is one. You are paralyzed by fear. For some targets of surveillance, all that's required is an appearance twice a year by the FBI to keep you immobilized. Of course, none of these mind games work if you got counter-surveillance skills and can spot the gaps in surveillance. So, I personally have experienced both of these things, not to the extreme that is mentioned in this article, but I've experienced jobs being sabotaged, uh, relationships being manipulated uh, by friends of, family of the people I'm talking to, or friends of the people I'm talking to, uh, intimidation, stuff like that. So a lot of this is hitting home, and that's why I was so excited to read this and use this as the next video, because man, I mean, you can replace FBI with whatever group you feel like is, you know, oppressing you at this moment. However, it's undeniable, man. So many people are saying that they've experienced things like this. Excuse me. So, I don't know what to say. We're just going to keep reading. Vehicle surveillance, the FBI system. I found this to be really interesting. If you can see underneath the title, copyright 1998, Lee Adams, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just going to read this, and this isn't all on one page. It's split up by slides, so just follow along if you can. Starting from the first paragraph. Wheel artist. That's spy talk for an outdoor surveillance specialist operating in a vehicle. The FBI has lots of them. Agents and bureau cars. Together they're called vehicle surveillance teams. Know your adversary. Make no mistake about it. FBI vehicle surveillance teams are deadly. They get results consistently. FBI agents receive the best training and the best equipment. They don't just follow you, they surround you. Man, they become part of your environment. You never see the same vehicle twice. They blend in with traffic, up to 20 FBI agents at one time, even more if the investigation involves national security. Every agent on the surveillance team has just one thing on his mind: to get you, and they will. Alright, so just from that alone, if you, those other presentations, you know, about the vehicles following and all this stuff, I mean, this is what this is. Regardless of who's doing it, this is some type of surveillance. Lately, I've been thinking this kind of has some security detail uh, about it. It seems like, some type of security detail, but the negative things that they do against me lets me know that it's not, some form of security. It's just some form of monitoring and surveillance. And from reading this article, whether you want to call it FBI, CIA, DEA, whatever group, it could just be freaking local police. But this protocol, this operation, for one, is nothing new. It's been known, it's been done, it's been used. But to read it out like that, I just think that's amazing. So we're going to continue. The FBI, a dangerous adversary. See, this guy has experience with the FBI, and I believe that this website was designed to train people. It's no longer active. I tried to look it up as much as I can, but this was back in 1998, and he was training people to um, use counter surveillance tactics to thwart any attempt to gather information and collect data on them. So I'm going to continue reading, starting from the top. The FBI, a dangerous adversary. The FBI is mainly interested in activity that occurs while you are out of your vehicle. The goal of an FBI vehicle surveillance team, therefore, is to track you to that location and then help the foot surveillance team establish contact on you. Background: the FBI's vehicle surveillance system is the result of 6 decades of experience, from rudimentary beginnings during Prohibition. The FBI system as it exists today is built in large part from techniques originally developed from 1938 to 1943 by the Gestapo to monitor and suppress resistance in Nazi-occupied countries. With the addition of more than 50 years of modification and improvements, the FBI today possesses a surveillance apparatus that had led to the ruin of many suspects. Triple threat. Depending on the situation, FBI agents can choose from 3 different methods of vehicle surveillance. These methods are floating box surveillance, handoff surveillance, and static surveillance. And without even knowing that, just from studying it the way I have been lately, it was amazing when I read that to know, just from looking and viewing that this correlates, man. This is what this is. Regardless of all the mystical creatures they try to tell you about, this is just basic use of technology to conduct surveillance on you. That's all it is. It's some organization conducting a form of surveillance. Whether you want to call it the FBI, we don't, there's ways to figure out who it is. We're not there yet, but there are ways. And this is just basic. It's not, I'm not saying just basic. I'm not belittling it, but it's just a tactic. It's just warfare tactics used against the general population. It's military structured operations used to conduct surveillance. That's all it is. And once you understand that they're just using technology to their advantage, to your disadvantage, it becomes easier to see with it. You know what I'm saying? We're just unraveling it. And I'm excited at the moment. I'm sorry. So we're going to continue reading. Floating box surveillance. Floating box surveillance is based on continuous coverage by the same team. FBI agents create a box of surveillance vehicles around you. That box floats with you as you travel along your route, hence the name floating box. It is very effective in urban and suburban locations. Very few suspects break out of the properly run floating box. Next slide. So I've already read the first 2 paragraphs. I'm going to start at the third, handoff surveillance. The first 2 were read on the previous slide. Handoff surveillance. Handoff surveillance involves more than one team. At key intersection or other decision points along your route, surveillance control is passed from one floating box team to another. This is called phase coverage. It is very effective when large distances are involved: freeways, expressways, long commutes, highways, and so on. It is also used in city situations when lengthy periods of time are involved. Static surveillance. Static surveillance is also based on phase coverage, but it uses fixed observation posts instead of a floating box. Each observation post is located at a decision point, major intersection, etc., along the target's route. Although this method of surveillance leaves many gaps in coverage, it is very difficult to detect this type of surveillance. The FBI uses this method when they first begin coverage on a hard target, such as a trained intelligence agent who is likely to be on the lookout for surveillance. The FBI switches to floating box surveillance after they identify general location where coverage is required. Man, I'm telling you, this hits home so much. Remember when I was talking about how they change? I can see these things happening. I didn't know the terms, I didn't know anything, but I've seen all of these three methods of them following me happen. And it gets even more, it hits home even more as we continue to read. This is amazing. God is so good. The universe is so kind to us. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to go to the next slide. The FBI has for many years managed to keep secret the size of their vehicle surveillance team. Even in court proceedings, the most they'll admit is to 20 vehicles. In some surveillance situations, FBI wheel artists don't just blend in with your environment, they become your environment. The image shown below illustrates the major components of the FBI's floating box of surveillance systems. Vehicle surveillance, I'm sorry. So the blue car is the target, right? So you have 5 vehicles surrounding this target. The target is heading, on his route, following that red arrow. There's a car in front of him. Advance. There's a car on the other block, the outrider, another car on the other block, and 2 cars behind him. If you're a targeted individual, I guarantee you've had this situation happen. I guarantee it. If you are being placed under surveillance, I know for a fact that have this situation happen countless amounts of time. This positioning system where they position themselves around you. But we're going to continue reading underneath this picture. The target's vehicle is shown in blue. The vehicle of the surveillance team are depicted in gray. The green rectangles represent urban terrain. The illustration is not rendered to scale. Distances in the real world are significantly greater. Furthermore, surveillance vehicles in the real world are never the identical make, model, and color. FBI teams use sedans, coupes, station wagons, pickup trucks, vans, minivans, sport utility vehicles, taxis, motorcycles, commercial truck, ambulances, 18-wheelers. Man, come on now. This is everything we've been taught. This is everything. Anybody I ever told about this over the past 2 years, man, I told them every last bit of this. I didn't have the terms. I didn't have, the context, none of this stuff. But this is everything. This is exactly what we're dealing with, regardless of how they make it seem. We're going to go to the next slide because we got to. So on the previous slide, I stopped. I was just saying FBI teams uses sedans, coupes, station wagons, pickup trucks, vans, minivans, sport utility vehicles, taxis, motorcycles, commercial trucks, ambulances, 18-wheelers, and others. All right, so I'm going to start reading the next paragraph, specialized roles. Each of these surveillance vehicles in the above illustration is charged with carrying out a specific assignment. Command vehicle. The command vehicle is tasked with maintaining visual contact with the target. The agent is said to have command of the target. This is a pivotal role. This agent keeps the other team members informed of the target's direction, speed, intentions, etc. Backup vehicle. The backup vehicle provides a fill-in function. Because the command vehicle is the vehicle most likely to be detected by the target, the FBI has devised a number of strategies that let the backup vehicle take over the command role, thereby allowing the previous command vehicle to exit the surveillance box. Many suspects have been duped by this strategy, as you will later learn in this article. Advanced vehicle. The advanced vehicle is like an early warning system. The agent provides advanced warning of obstacles, hazards, or traffic conditions that would otherwise catch the surveillance team unaware. The advanced vehicle also fulfills other important functions. If the FBI has bugged your telephone or your office or your residence, they're likely to already know your destination. Naturally, the advanced vehicle arrives before you do. Many suspects have been completely fooled by the other undercover FBI agent who is already seated at the restaurant when the suspect arrives. The universe is so good to us, man. I'm telling you, I asked specifically for information, and this just stumbled upon my lap. And this is exactly the exact to the detail. And I wish this site was still up. This is in 1998. I'm experiencing this in 2018. I almost jumped ahead of myself. I'm so put this with the previous presentations, man. And then we got something. I wish this was a study in the gangstalking part 1, and then we go into what I showed you previously, and then everything would make perfect sense. Everything. And I hope this is helping somebody understand what they're going through so it can demystify, it to an extent to where they're not going crazy about it, because this is what this is. Regardless of what agency is carrying this operation out, this is what we're dealing with. We're being placed under surveillance for some reason. When we went back, there was no reason. When we first, we read the introduction to this article, there was no reason. It was because you were a certain class, certain race. They was using algorithms and artificial intelligence. That's what this article said. That's not my words, but I'm saying there's really no reason. And if you look on YouTube and you see all these people giving their testimonies, none of them know the reason. There is no reason. You're just being placed under surveillance. That's it. Just being placed under surveillance. And they're using these FBI military tactics to carry it out. Man, I'm excited at the moment because I love new information, and forget everything else I presented in whatever presentation. This is the most important information. So we're going to move on to the next slide. So this is continuing the description of the roles of the vehicles. I'm going to start from the top with outrider vehicle. Outrider vehicle. The outrider vehicles patrol the perimeter of the floating box. Their assignment is to make certain that the target does not get outside the containment of the box. They also play a key role when the target makes a turn at an intersection, as you'll learn later in this article. Surveillance advantages. The floating box is a very powerful and flexible system. It allows the FBI to successfully respond to a variety of situations. The FBI is almost never caught off guard. Recovery from mistakes. If visual contact with the target is lost, the box can be collapsed inward, enabling the agents to quickly reacquire command of the target. Whenever the FBI loses visual contact with the target, the surveillance team immediately executes a lost command drill. The FBI has a number of strategies they use to reacquire command of the target. Quick response. The floating box also allows the FBI to react quickly to a target who is attempting to evade surveillance. If the target unexpectedly makes a left turn, for example, the left outrider vehicle turns left and becomes the new advanced vehicle. The other elements of the team shift roles as appropriate. More on this later. Signature shift. The floating box makes it possible to quickly alter the signature of the team, making them more difficult to detect. In the previous illustration of the floating box system, there are 5 surveillance vehicles. At first glance, one might assume they can be reconfigured 5 different ways if they switch roles. In actual practice, a team of 5 vehicles can be reconfigured 5 by 4 by 3 by 2 by 120 different ways. Not all of these configurations are useful in the field. The FBI stakeout box. A vehicle surveillance operation begins with the stakeout box. The FBI watches your office or residence, waiting for you to get in your vehicle and drive away. At that moment, the stakeout box becomes a floating box. The image shown below illustrates the basic components of an FBI stakeout box. So the blue car is the target. Remember, the gray car is, in this case, the FBI. And Charlie, if you see across from the blue car, is the car that's waiting for this guy to leave. Also Bravo, and they're in the vicinity, the proximity of this guy. And once he leaves, they'll begin to go into whatever operation they're going into. And I swear to you, just go back and watch whatever presentation. I think it was 2 or maybe 3, and I've described this in so many words. So I'm you know, wow. The target vehicle is shown in blue. The vehicles in the surveillance team are depicted in gray. This image is not rendered to scale. Distances are much greater than the real world. We're going to go on to the next slide. Assignments. Note how vehicles Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta are prepositioned. They are pointed away from the parked target vehicle. Each of these 4 layer vehicles is ready to initiate a follow, no matter which direction the target takes. Trigger vehicle. The trigger vehicle is responsible for maintaining visual contact with the parked target vehicle. When the target begins to drive away, the agent in the trigger vehicle alerts the other members of the stakeout box. The agent is triggering the rest of the team into action, hence the name trigger vehicle. Man. Layup vehicle. After being alerted by the trigger vehicle, the appropriate layup vehicle, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or Delta, picks up the follow and becomes the command vehicle. The other vehicles assume roles as outriders and backup until the team can be augmented with other FBI vehicles being held in reserve. Picking up the follow. In a smoothly run stakeout box, the layup vehicle that is initiating the follow will often pull out in front of the target as shown in the illustration above. The layup vehicle becomes the command vehicle with command of the target. When the command vehicle is in front of the moving target vehicle, it is called cheating. A cheating command vehicle is more difficult to detect than a common vehicle that is following the target. Wow. Command of the target. The phrase command of the target refers to visual contact with the target of a surveillance operation. The surveillance vehicles having command of the target is called the command vehicle. We're going to go on to the next slide and we're going to continue reading. So I'm going to pick up where I left off. I already read the first paragraph in the title. I'm going to start at the second paragraph. The name is appropriate, for the command vehicle also has virtual command of the entire surveillance team. The agent in the command vehicle informs the rest of the team whenever the target vehicle changes direction, adjusts speeds, or stops. The surveillance team follows the guidance of the command vehicle. The control and power that is provided by this approach is offset by the vulnerability of the command vehicle. In many surveillance operations, it is the command vehicle that is first detected by the target. In order to overcome this vulnerability, the FBI has developed a number of tactics to dupe the target of the surveillance operation. Handoff. The image shown below provides an example of how the FBI often reacts to a turn by the target vehicle. So we're going to go on to the next slide. After watching the target make a right turn at the intersection, the command vehicle continues straight through the intersection. The agent has, however, alerted one of the layup vehicles that the FBI has pre-positioned at major decision points along the target's route. As you can see from the illustration above, this is a very potent maneuver. The target sees the car that has been following him continue straight through the intersection. He starts to question whether or not he was actually under surveillance. Perhaps he was just imagining things. As a result, the layup vehicle is often able to pick up the following without attracting any suspicion. I'm telling you. I don't even know what I'm telling you, but I just like seeing it written out, you know. I saved this website as a PDF file so I can make, because I knew once I was reading, I was like, all right, yep, I got to share this information. But I just like seeing it written out, you know, because now that I have it written, I don't have to make I don't have to, I didn't have to make those. If I had found this first, I wouldn't have had to make those presentations, you know, an hour and 30 minutes like I did. I would have just gave you, the video evidence I had and then correlate, lined it up with this because this is what it is. Now we don't know who, I don't know who or what or why, but I know that this is what this is. It may not be the FBI in my case, it may not be the FBI in your case, but this is the operation that they're running. Some more aggressively, some less aggressively, but this is the operation that they're running. It's crazy. Last paragraph. Cheating. The image shown below shows a variation on this maneuver. Instead of pulling in behind the target, the layup vehicle acquires command of the target by pulling out ahead of the target. This is called a cheating command. It has fooled a lot of suspects of FBI investigations. And we're going to go into the next paragraph and you're going to see the image. A hard target, however, will eventually notice a telltale pattern of vehicles on side streets who pull away from the curve and then turn the corner in front of him. This is how you detect surveillance teams, by watching for patterns of behavior around you. Commit vehicle. In order to further disguise their activities, the FBI often utilizes a commit vehicle as shown in the illustration below. We're going to go into the next slide. The commit vehicle is pre-positioned at a major decision point along with the target's route. The FBI agent in the commit vehicle is charged with watching the approaching target vehicle. His assignment is to observe when the target has committed himself to a specific route, hence the name commit vehicle. Because he is parked in a parking lot, driveway, or side street, his presence is difficult to detect by the target. Using a tactic like this allows the layup vehicle to be parked out of sight, as shown in the image above. At the appropriate moment, the commit vehicle cues the layup vehicle to begin moving. This permits the layup vehicle to smoothly enter the situation and acquire command of the target without attracting the attention of the target. The target does not see the layup vehicle pull away from the curve. He only sees what appears to be just another vehicle in the normal flow of traffic. Now, reading that, we know that they're using this operation. However, where it differentiates in our cases is that they want you to know. You feel me? They want you to know what they're doing because they make it obvious. They surround you with this showcase of, whatever they do, the colors, they surround you with visual stimulation that lets you know constantly. See, this sounds like something that would be done covertly. They mentioned a hard target is someone who knows. So they would do this to where, I guess, a soft target would be someone who wouldn't be as aware of what's going on. And this would be a method used, So it doesn't make any. So that's why I can't say, oh, this is the FBI doing this to me. I can't say that. Because if it was an FBI investigation, their goal would not be to be known. The people surrounding quote unquote target individuals, it seems like they want to be known by that person. However, they want to give themselves, this false image of invulnerability. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. But we're going to continue. We're going to go into the next slide. So like I said, all the information, I was clicking on the whole website and I tried to find the most pertinent information that would apply directly to us as targeted individuals. This website was started in 1998. I even went back to Internet Archives and I seen that as of 1999, they actually took this website down for some reason. So I wanted so bad to continue reading, because there was supposed to be multiple parts of the vehicle surveillance. and there wasn't that much on there, so uh, we just went on to the next thing that was most important, and it's this article I'm about to read to you now. But yeah, man, you can go to Internet Archives and you can see websites from all types of years. You want to see what MTV.com looked like in 1996. You can go to Web Archives. Just type in Web Archives in Google, MTV.com, and you can pull up, and it'll have it from when it started to now. It's amazing. But we're gonna continue reading. Action training. Proven methods for recognizing and thwarting FBI surveillance. Beating the FBI. At best, the FBI does not have a history of respect for civil rights. Whether you are guilty or innocent does not matter. You are always treated the same way during the FBI investigation, unfairly, especially if surveillance is involved. If you snooze, you lose. It's that simple. Many of us are sleepwalking through life, and if you don't pay attention, then you're going to pay, especially if you engage in behavior that attracts the attention of the FBI. Make no mistakes about it, FBI surveillance teams are lethal. They are very effective at what they do. They have had lots of experience. They've got massive resources. In a major investigation, 30 agents watching one person is commonplace. You never see the same agent twice. You never see the same vehicle twice. The FBI's triple threat surveillance strategy of multi-layered teams, rapid response, and managed aggression must be taken seriously. Come on. I mean, I don't even have to explain it. Someone who's living through this at this current moment. I mean, we can't call it the FBI in our cases, but this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing, for some reason, whatever the reason may be, these people see that, it must be important for them to carry out this operation against us. So I'm going to continue reading. I'm at the fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm at the fifth paragraph, the red writing, threat number 1. A multi-layered team can fool you into thinking that surveillance has ended. This is an extremely dangerous situation. They're still lurking nearby, of course, waiting for you to say or do something incriminating. Threat number 2. A same-day response by the FBI means that surveillance might begin before you're ready for it. They'll catch you unprepared. The FBI surveillance team may end up watching you trying to hide the very material that you're hoping to conceal from them. So this is written assuming that person is, involved in some type of political organization or some type of activity. But the information that you're about to get is very important. Keep reading from the top. Threat number 3. The FBI's policy of managed aggression can easily provoke you into losing your temper or your nerve or both. It is a wicked strategy. That's why they use it. It is easy to see why most people are easy prey for the FBI's surveillance machine, but it doesn't need to be that way. Beating the FBI. There are people who routinely thwart the FBI. They know how to recognize the telltale signature of an FBI surveillance team. When they find themselves under surveillance, they use tactics that inhibit the FBI's ability to find out what they're really doing. They mislead the FBI. These individuals make it difficult for the FBI to build a legitimate case against them. Perhaps even more important, they make it difficult for the FBI to build a phony case against them. Now I'm going to pause right there because that's not what my presentations are about. If you're somebody who really is involved in some type of crime or whatever, to where you really are under investigation, the enemy of the state or whatever, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. The purpose of my presentations are for people who are victimized by illegal surveillance. Where there is no reason for them to be placed under surveillance, yet they are, and people are antagonizing them on a daily basis, and they're being victimized and oppressed. That's what we're talking about. Okay? So the guy writing this has his experience, and his information is very powerful and very important, and it concerns us. Yet, I'm not giving you this information to where you can go and do your illegal operations and get away with it. That's not what we're talking about. I ain't got nothing to do with none of that. We're talking about being placed under illegal surveillance and how to cope with it, how to understand it, and how to unravel what we're dealing with. I lost my place. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm at the fifth paragraph. Fifth paragraph starts after the page break. After that sentence, I'm going to continue reading. An individual like this is called a hard target. That's spy talk for a surveillance target who knows what he's doing. The methods and techniques that these individuals use are called counter-surveillance. This article reveals some of those methods and techniques. Simply put, the article you are reading is about counter-surveillance methods that will beat the FBI. What you'll learn in this article, the article is comprised of 2 parts. The first section deals with the FBI general strategy. You'll learn about the structure. And see, we're not trying to uh, beat the FBI. That's not what we're about. So I'm not going to read that. You can pause it and you can read the rest of that article because I don't believe it pertains to what we're going through. Yes, we're trying to beat this protocol, but not because we're, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to beat it because it's a crime against us. It's illegal. They're stealing our privacy and they don't have just cause. They don't have a warrant to do so. They don't have a reason to do so. They're doing it because, they're abusing their authority and they're abusing their technology that they have. So I'm going to stop this slide and I'm going to the next slide. All right, now we're getting into information that concerns us. Okay, so what you're about to read, I might not even have to point it out, but what you're about to read is going to sound a lot like, what we experience. And it's going to give a reason to why we experience some of the things we experience. Okay? Starting from the top. What you need to know about the FBI. They are masters of the game. If you have something to hide, FBI surveillance could be the beginning of the end for you. Do not make the mistake of underestimating the capabilities of an FBI surveillance team. He says FBI a whole lot. They are persistent. They are methodical. They are thorough. And they are fanatical about their work. Drawing from decades of experience, FBI surveillance strategy has evolved into an advanced system that exploits the classic military principles of space, time, and force. This strategic foundation is present in every major surveillance operation run by the FBI. This foundation relies on the 3 pillars of rapid response, multi-layered teams, and managed aggression. While each of these is a serious threat to the target of a surveillance operation, the most deadly of the 3 is the multi-layered team. Multi-layered teams. The FBI deployment strategy is insidious and conniving, yet brilliant. Because of the manner in which FBI agents are deployed, it is almost impossible to catch the FBI unaware during a surveillance operation. They always have a fallback position. This is called the strategy of surveillance in depth. Here's how it works. For most surveillance operations, the FBI actually puts 2 teams in the field. That's right, 2 teams. The first team is expendable. That means if it is blown, that spy talk for detected, the surveillance operation will still survive and reach its objective. The first team is called decoy and diversion team. In this article, we will refer to it simply as the decoy team. In surveillance operations involving hard targets, the decoy team expects to get caught. In surveillance operation involving soft targets, they expect to remain undetected in 75% of all cases. I'm going to stop right there. Okay, so before I continue reading, the last slide, what I was reading, spoke about having 2 teams, a decoy team and the real surveillance team. That's significant for a reason, and once I continue reading, we'll talk about why that's significant. So I'm gonna start from the top. I may have already read this first paragraph, but I'm gonna read it again anyway. Okay. In surveillance operations involving hard targets, the decoy team expects to get caught. In surveillance operations involving soft targets, they expect to remain undetected in 75% of all cases. A soft target is a person who has no counter surveillance skills or training and is not on the lookout for surveillance. Any target who is alert and on the lookout for surveillance will eventually detect a pavement artist of the decoy team. Pavement artist is spy talk for a member of the surveillance team that is watching you in public places. They are on foot, then they are in vehicles. At the same time the decoy team enters the situation and begins surveillance on you, a second team also enters the game. The second team quietly slips into the environment, where it does its best to blend in with the background. The second team is called the stealth team. At the beginning of the operation, the stealth team makes no effort to watch you. Its only objective is to establish its presence and to remain undetected. This deployment strategy is incredibly effective. Here's why. The first team provides cover for the second team's arrival. Even a hard target is likely to be too busy watching the first team to notice the arrival of the second team. And when both teams are in place, you usually only notice the first team. The top priority of the first team, the decoy team, is to see everything you do. They want to learn your habits and your daily routine. They don't want to be detected, of course, but they are prepared to pay that price if it is what's required in order to make sure they see absolutely everything you are doing. Their first priority is to acquire as much data about you as possible. Why is that significant? Because that's when you look up this protocol, gangstalking, whatever, that's all people talk about is the decoy. All that stuff that I was showing you in those previous um, presentations with the green shirts and the fire trucks and that's the decoy team. All these people following me around in my neighborhood and all that, they're the decoys, they're the distractions. Somewhere lurking somewhere is the real security, the real surveillance. The stealth team. You know? So this kind of throws away everything that I was talking about, and then we got to reconfigure this all over again. We got to replan our course of action. We got to rethink this thing. I mean, we already knew that they were the distraction, but now we have to think multiple. Okay, these guys are just decoys. All these people that pull up in front of the house and drive off when I walk to the door, like they know that I'm watching them and stuff like that. That's the decoy. Their goal is for you to focus on that, to get your attention. They want that attention. That's why they do these things. And at the same time, like they said, they still are collecting data, collecting information on you. Going through your trash, all types of stuff. They do all types of stuff. But that's the decoy team. They report back, according to this article, they report back to the real deal. The real surveillance team, the stealth team, are the ones that are purposefully staying out of sight. So now when I conduct operations, when whatever footage I'm able to get, I know that these people are just a distraction. Powerful stuff, man. So we're gonna keep going. If you do detect the decoy team, and if they realize you've spotted them, the decoy team simply suspends its operations. We talked about them changing up last time. They realize that you'll notice their departure. In fact, they're counting on it. They also realize there are very few people who will realize that a second team has blended into the background. This second team, the stealth team, doesn't need to see everything you do. They have been briefed by the first team. The stealth team only needs to watch you during certain times and certain locations where they think you might be up to something. The top priority of the stealth team is to remain undetected. and they are prepared to leave you unwatched for brief periods of time in order to retain their invisibility. This is called picket surveillance by the FBI, named after the gaps in the picket fence. And we're going to stop right there because we talked about changes. We talked about them changing up. We talked about how, once we started making these presentations, how they slacked off. How they try to retime, their appearances. And they do that on purpose. They'll stop on purpose. Once they know they'll fall back. They'll switch up. But according to this article, there's other people involved that are purposefully staying hidden. It's crazy. I'm going to continue reading. I'm at the third paragraph. This two-stage approach to major surveillance operation is brutally effective. It has led to the ruin of many people who thought they could outfox the FBI. Tradecraft. The undercover agents of the stealth team use methods that are more sophisticated than those used by the decoy team. These methods are called tradecraft. The stealth team is much more difficult to catch than the decoy team. You need to know what you're doing. It is vital that you do not let the stealth team realize that you spotted them. That's because the best way to beat them is by feeding them misinformation. And I know they're listening to me read this. Not even worried about it. The difference in methods used by these two teams is best explained by example. Numerous situations are described in the case study later in this article. I don't think I got the case study on here. Layered surveillance. This concept of multi-layered surveillance teams is the backbone of the FBI's surveillance strategy. They almost never lead with their best team. They always hold something back so that they have a fallback position. This strategy is also carried over into other FBI operations. When the FBI is trying to infiltrate an agent into your circle, so I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to continue with that sentence. It's going to say circle of group friends or stuff like that. And I'm going to the next slide. When the FBI is trying to infiltrate an agent into your circle of friends, associates, co-workers, or acquaintances, they'll often use an expendable agent first. This first agent is a decoy agent, meant to provide cover for the infiltration by the second agent, the stealth agent. If the first agent manages to penetrate your organization undetected, the FBI is delighted. But if he runs into difficulty, he is withdrawn. The second agent, who has blended into the background, is brought into play. And I have had personal experiences with that. People who have tried to befriend me, especially at work. And then I'll discuss it with somebody else. Man, I think this person is such and such, yada, yada, yada. That person would switch up. It's crazy. So we're going to continue reading. The reconnaissance factor. In many surveillance situations, a special team is deployed to provide reconnaissance information for the main surveillance teams. This reconnaissance team is called the advanced team. The reconnaissance team is deployed ahead of the decoy and stealth team that were discussed earlier in the article. The advanced team is tasked with establishing roughly who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. They'll take photographs of you, your home, your office, and your vehicles. These photographs help agents identify you on sight. The person who secretly takes pictures of you is called a perp. That's where that term perp comes from. No, peep. I'm sorry. The peep often arrives at your doorstep disguised as a volunteer collecting for charity or as a religious canvasser. Like the CIA, the FBI is big on using organized religion as cover for covert operations. Man, I had a conversation. Look, I just love to see it written out in front of my face, and I'm excited about it. It's crazy. It's crazy. Surreptitious entry. The primary task of the advanced team, however, is to break into your home or office. This is called surreptitious entry by spies. That's just polite talk for break and enter. The break-in usually happens during the first few days of a surveillance operation. Once inside, they perform a quick search of your property. They've got special ways to get inside locked drawers and office safes. See future articles in Spy and Counter Spy for more on this. They'll often bug your home office. Being able to hear all your conversation gives them a tremendous advantage. If they already know where you're going, it makes it easier to follow you. If they know you're going to a restaurant, for example, they can arrive before you do. The FBI's tactic of being the first to arrive at your destination has fooled many people over the years. They'll usually attach a tracking device called a beeper to your vehicle. This makes it easier for them to track you in traffic. Clearly, if you are sharp enough to detect the advanced team, we're going to go on to the next slide so we can continue reading. Clearly, if you are sharp enough to detect the advanced team, and if you don't reveal that you've spotted them, you can enjoy a major tactical advantage over the FBI during the entire surveillance operation. See, I already kind of probably ruined that. You can either cloak your activities so they find nothing, or you can feed them misinformation. See future articles in Spy and Counter Spy for more detecting. You can also watch the behavior of the surveillance team itself from telltale signs that indicate they've got your home or office bugged. And I still do that from time to time. I do that pretty much every single day of my life. Um, it's like I call it reconfirming, and I do it every single day. I don't harp over it. I don't I'm not going obsessive about it, but if I notice it, I'm like, okay, watch what when I do this, watch what they do. I say it to myself when I do this, watch what they about to, stuff like that. Consequences of same day response. What's the lesson in all this? Here's a real world example. Suppose you are a controversial activist group. If you send out a news release to the media exposing government abuse, then you better be prepared for same day surveillance by the FBI. Not tomorrow, not in a few days, today. The same advice applies if you are an investigative journalist. And I'm neither one of those, but yet we find ourselves in some type of operation. So we're going to go on to the next slide. Continue reading. Managed aggression. Now this one is important when a lot of people talk about psyops, and you'll read. I mean, we'll get there. This is the third component in the FBI's three-pronged strategy of multi-layered teams, rapid response, and managed aggression. The FBI has a bureau-wide policy of managed aggression. This policy also affects FBI's surveillance operation. Surveillance teams are given specific goals. The FBI command structure accepts no excuses. It tolerates no failures. This strategy of surveillance for results leads to aggressive behavior in FBI surveillance teams because of the pressure they're under. This results-driven aggression tends to manifest itself as professional aggression. An FBI surveillance team is using professional aggression when it intentionally and deliberately applies pressure to the subject of a surveillance operation. Actions like this are called psyops, which is a spy talk for psychological operations. Here is an example of how FBI surveillance team will deliberately provoke you. When you're walking through a mall or a downtown shopping district, the surveillance team will intentionally interfere with your route. A pavement artist will absent-mindedly cross your path, forcing you to change course to avoid walking into him. A group of agents will inadvertently obstruct your path. They'll be standing together chatting, forcing you to walk around them. Other pavement artists will accidentally create near misses as you walk along. Some of these pedestrians will create situations with the potential for a head-on collision, forcing you to dodge them. In my particular case, they'll be smoking cigarettes. Uh, they'll be doing all types of stupid behavior. They'll be just standing in the middle of the sidewalk. They'll be. I experienced all of this. As the psychological pressure continues to build, agents may innocently bump into you, jostle you, or step on your heel from behind. A group of pavement artists will queue up ahead of you, creating a line that delays you as you try to make a purchase. Now, that happens really a lot. I get the cigarettes. I get uh, the side conversations. I get people always in my way when I'm going places, and people purposefully delaying, the line at a store, or holding me up purposefully, asking silly questions just to keep a conversation going with the person at the cash register to, slow time in a way. So yeah, everything we've been talking about, everything I've been telling people, it is written. And this was written in 1998. I mean, it's here. So everything that you see online with people talking about, man, these people are doing this, these people are doing that, these people are doing this to me. Tell them it's some type of protocol. It's operation. It may not be the FBI in everybody's case. It may be CIA, DEA, NSA. You know, they local police department, some private security. It could be a number of things, but this is what they do. So when you go and you tell someone, hey man, some weird things are happening in my life right now, this is it. And it's made specifically to look that way. I want to read this again, and I'm going to read it on my own, but you can pause it and you can read it again. It's crazy. This is your government at work. This is what you salute that flag for. But we're going to stop right here. We're going to keep going. I've already read this first paragraph, but I'm going to reread it anyway because I want to. I love this information. As the psychological pressure continues to build, agents may innocently bump into you, jostle you, or step on your heel from behind. A group of pavement artists will queue up ahead of you, creating a line that delays you as you try to make a purchase, order fast food, buy tickets, and so on. Man, when I go to like McDonald's or something, you know, don't judge me for eating McDonald's, but yeah, they'll pull into the line and be a long line. It's just this happens every time. And I've been telling people this, but to see it written out in front of your face, it's almost like a game changer. You don't know where the next provocation is going to come from. You're beginning to get upset, irritated, unstable. You're more likely to make mistakes in judgment, and that's exactly what the surveillance team wants. When the surveillance team is experiencing difficulty cracking open an investigation, they sometimes resort to professional aggression. This is a wicked mind game. It can be very effective if you're not anticipating it. The FBI surveillance team has the power to make or break your day, and they don't hesitate to use that power. This is not a game for choir boys. That was rude. Conclusion: FBI surveillance strategy. The FBI's triple threat surveillance strategy of multi-layered teams, rapid response, and managed aggression must be taken seriously. These three threats are mentioned at the beginning of this article. They are important enough to be repeated. I won't do so. Man. So, reading this and other books that I've read, what I am experiencing, what many of us are experiencing, anyone who claims to have been illegally placed under surveillance, criminally placed under surveillance, we're just experiencing some sort of agency conducting uh, this type of operation and everything, man. I mean, this was written for someone who is a political activist or someone who, you know, uh, is in some militia group, you know, some alt right type people. We're not them, you know what I'm saying? So, but we can still apply this because they still do these same things. There's some differences, but majority of it, this is what it is. And they're going to continue to do these things. They're going to switch up their game. They're going to try to remain anonymous, remain invisible, yada yada yada. Excuse me, but this is crazy. It's crazy. But information is beautiful, man. This is what I was looking for. You know, something that just describes it to a T. And there's I wish it was 1998. I wish this website was still up to where we can go in to all these other articles this guy was talking about writing. All of it's gone. I did a Google search. I found some of it, because some of it has been uh, reposted on other websites. That's how I found it. And he kept mentioning that website, and I googled that website. Website's gone, and then I went to the Internet Archives to find this website, and it's gone. But hey, this is your government at work. This is your tax money. You know, everything that this country is supposed to stand for. This is what it really stands for. You know, sad. But I wish everybody the best. I thank you for listening. If you read this with me, um, you know, we got a lot of work to do to continue to gain even more understanding. You know, because now they're really pretending like they're not doing anything, which, you know, once I started making these videos was expected. So now, given this information, you know, I bet they're pretty much going to be invisible. They're going to try to paint themselves in invisible paint. But information is powerful. I got to find a way to get this audio right because I don't want to lose what we have here. Or if you just want to turn the video, you know, pause it and just read it for yourselves without the audio, you know, without my narration, just do it. But get this information, man. This information, it will lift the weight of, you know, that mysterious aspect of it. Like, what are we dealing with? We're just dealing with this. Except there's no reason for us to be dealing with it. So everything that they're doing against us is completely illegal. That's it. You can take this, you can say, okay, I'm dealing with this, except, you know, why am I dealing with it? Why is this a burden of mine? Living the life that we lead, you know? It's crazy. Till next time.